Hi again then guys, and welcome to the very first, actually, car review from the second installment of the Project Gotham franchise. We've featured the first game, the third game, and of course the fourth game. This one though is finally breaking into the second game, and interestingly, for those who haven't played the older Project Gotham games, this one actually has, you could argue, the strongest selection of different vehicle types, actually of all four Project Gotham games. You've got hot hatches, classics, SUVs even, trucks. It's pretty impressive. And with all the vehicles that are in the game, it probably seems like kind of a strange choice to begin with this one, the Porsche Cayenne Turbo. So why have I chosen to start with this? Well, for two reasons. One, because it showcases just how different many of the car selections are, as I just mentioned, in this second game. It's not exactly like you find a ton of SUVs in the other Project Gotham titles, but also because this is one of those cars which I have real-world experience with, because I was actually thinking of buying one of these. I drove a couple of hundred miles actually to test drive one and check it out and potentially sell my Touareg to buy a Cayenne V8S instead. However, although the real life aspects of the car don't fully apply in a game, I do find it interesting to see some parallels. Now, the car that I drove was not this one, it was not the Turbo, but it was the same generation, the same age, and it did still have a 4.5 litre V8, but it was naturally aspirated instead. Now, this car, at the time, the Cayenne Turbo, is a vehicle which actually, I would say, in terms of its performance and its spec, the performance side of its spec was actually way ahead of its time. Because at the time you had stuff like your Range Rover Sports to some degree, the supercharged models, but generally speaking, sports SUVs weren't at this level yet. Most of them weren't. You had the Touareg with 310 horsepower, the Mercedes ML55 with 350. This thing busts onto the scene in true Porsche fashion and just annihilates everything else in the class, pretty much, with 450 horsepower. The performance was fantastic, and even compared to many of today's sports SUVs, it's still got an impressive spec. Not as good as all of them, of course, but still impressive. But you're probably wondering, well, what relevance does that have to the game? And also, what are my thoughts on this, having driven one in real life, in a different form? Well, first of all, the relevance that it has to the game is actually that if that car still feels good now, then chances are, in a game from back then, it's going to feel even better. And it does. There are not a huge amount of SUVs and trucks in the game. You've got Volvo, the Chevy SSR, the aforementioned Mercedes, the ML55, the BMW X5, the Ford SVT Lightning, and this. That's not a strong selection, or not a large selection, but it is a pretty strong one in terms of content. Now, this one, interestingly, is one of only two in that utility category to have a handling rating of 4. All of the others are lower. They have 3, 2, or 1. And the only other SUV to have that is the BMW, the X5. And as far as ratings go, I fully agree with that, because this is remarkably good through corners. This car feels fantastic. Now, when I actually drove the Cayenne, I was disappointed by it, to be honest. And you probably wouldn't expect me to say that about a Porsche, especially one that I was considering buying, trading in my car even for, but it was more so the real-world aspects that I didn't like about it. It felt kind of cheap compared to the Touareg. The doors were very thin, the panelling felt kind of plasticky, the interior doesn't look as nice as the Touareg, neither does the exterior as far as I'm concerned, and even though it has that nice 4.5 litre naturally aspirated V8, it just didn't feel as Porsche as I was hoping, and that's not too surprising because Porsche had never done something like this before. So again, in retrospect, having this 450 horsepower version is actually kind of impressive for the time. Now, in the game, of course, you don't need to worry about stuff like build quality and reliability and how many miles it's done. It's just the performance. It's one of the best things about racing games. You can enjoy cars without anywhere near as many downsides. From that point of view, this is easily one of the best, if not the best, SUV in the game. In fact, some of the ratings that they give it specifically are the best in the game. The acceleration rating, the top speed rating, and the handling, as I said, which is on par with the Beamer, are all the highest in the class. And when it comes to acceleration and top speed, it's by far the best. The speed rating, for instance, is 6 out of 10. The next nearest cars have 4. In the category. There is nothing with a 5, so it's heads above everything else, as I said it was in real life even, and as far as acceleration, once again, the only thing that comes close with 6 points, because this has a 7 out of 10 is ironically the Ford SVT Lightning, which is a great truck, but again, you don't have all-wheel drive, so the launch isn't as strong, and the Beamer, for instance, which is equal in handling, according to them at least, that has a 5 for acceleration compared to the 7 on this. The launch is fantastic, but easily the best thing about this car in the game is the handling. It is so good through corners, and to be honest, I might give it more than a 4 out of 5, I think. It's so grippy, but at the same time it does not feel heavy. And interestingly, that is one positive thing about the Cayenne which I can corroborate based on my real world experience with the car. It does handle well. It does feel lighter because it is lighter than the Touareg. In the game, it does feel light on its feet and very grippy, but at the same time without heavy steering that you would typically expect from an SUV. Even here on a short test course, running basically at top-end speeds all the time, it feels great. And that shocked me. I was expecting it to be okay, maybe good for an SUV, but this just feels good in general. Now, I've driven a couple of other cars in this game, of course tons of other cars in the other Project Gotham titles, older and newer, and this might actually have my favourite handling of any of the first couple of Project Gotham games that I've driven so far. It's really that good. It's so fun to drive, feels fantastic, and also, for some strange reason, the Cayenne, turbo or otherwise, wasn't really featured, and to some degree still isn't really featured in as many racing games as you might expect. Forza has been one of the only games to consistently feature it, but back in this era, this game had it. I don't believe Forza did at the time. I don't think they've ever had this original generation of Cayenne, and of course one of the most random times that it popped up was technically in Midnight Club 3, where it was under the Gembala name as an aftermarket tuned version, where it was pretty much the best SUV in the game. So it's funny because it's a car that rarely shows up, but in the games where it does show up, they give it a lot of respect, and I have to say, I do too. I didn't buy it for various reasons in real life, but for performance, and in a racing game, it is a very good contender to go for. But that's it overall for this review. Of course, I'll see you guys next time, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.